The Torah in Parshas Toldos spends a significant period of time speaking about wells. These were wells that Yitzchak had some involvement in. We're told that there were wells that Yitzchak found on his own. Interestingly, they are called, and still today we're familiar with the name of these wells because there were cities that were established based on the wells. So, for example, Yitzchak found Be'er Sheva, Yitzchak found Rehovot. And then there are wells that there were dispute as to whether they were Yitzchak's, and Avimelech claimed that he owned the well. And so, for example, that well was called Asek. And then the Torah tells us that there were other wells that Yitzchak was involved in. Vayashav Yitzchak, and Yitzchak returned, Vayachbor es be'eros hamayim, and he dug out the be'er, the well filled with water, asher chafru b'imei Avraham aviv. This was a well that was already dug in the days of Avraham his father. Vayisatmun plishtim. So if it was already dug in the days of his father, why was it that Yitzchak was digging it again? Because the Plishtim, the Philistines, had filled it up with afar, with earth. Acharei Mos Avraham, after the death of Avraham. Apparently the Plishtim wanted to forget about history. They wanted to wipe out the legacy of Avraham and his contribution to the world, in the very least, his contribution by creating a place for people to get water. Vayikra lahen Shemos, and Yitzchak continued. It wasn't enough for Yitzchak just to redig the wells that were originally his father. But Yitzchak took it one step further. Vayikra lahen Shemos, he called these wells names not according to what he liked, the names that he liked, but he called them names Kashemos asher karan lahen aviv. He called them the exact names that his father had originally called them. So in other words, if Avram had a be'er, a well, and he gave it a name, and then the well after Avram's death was filled up and was no longer active, no longer usable, here came Yitzchak, dug out the well, it was now usable, and Yitzchak did not give it his own name. Yitzchak gave it the name that his father Avraham had already given. So Rabbeinu Bachya comments and says that Yitzchak did this for the honor, for the kavod of his father, for the zechus, for the merit of his father. And what we learn from here is that a person should never move away from the path of their parents that is established for them. That the musar that the parents give, the advice that parents give, the guidelines for life that parents gives, should always be seen as being valuable to the child. Sometimes a child can follow exactly the way the parent wants the child to be, but there is always value in something that a parent gives over to the child. And so Rabbeinu Bachya suggests maybe this is why Yitzchak is the only one of our forefathers whose name is not changed. Avraham's name was changed from Avram to Avraham. Yaakov's name was added, Yisrael. Yitzchak, his name always remains the same. Because the midah of Yitzchak was that he followed the path that his father had established for him, and he didn't bend and he didn't waver from it. He wanted to make sure that he himself was seen as continuing the legacy of his father. And whether our parents are with us, so we're zocha, or we merit to have our parents with us in this world, or whether they are no longer with us in this world, the lesson that we can take from Yitzchak Avinu is that we are our parents' legacy. And that when we act and do things in this world, we should ask ourselves before we do them and after we do them, how would our parents think about the nachas, hopefully, that we have brought them, or about the mistakes that we've made, and how we try to make amends for them. So the be'er, the well, is a significant message, not only in the times of Chazal and the times of our Avos, but even though we don't make use of wells today, there is still a great amount that we can learn from the wells dug by Yitzchak Avinu. Thank you for listening and have a good Shabbos.